I've always been interested in the number of different third-person cameras that are used in so many different games. Today we are going to take a look at Fortnite's third-person camera and how the camera reacts in different situations that it can be put in. Well, to start off, we can tell that the player is about 1.5 units tall based off of the way all the building works in this game. Each thing is 3 units wide by 3 units tall. And then we can also tell that when you crouch, the player is about 1 unit tall. So when the player is standing up, they're only about a half a unit taller. You can also tell, based off of this, that the camera stays within a 1 to 2 unit arc of the player. Unless you're spinning around, then it's a whole sphere, but it is still 1 to 2 units tall. You can see this a little bit better when you stand up. Also, when you are using the camera, it stays behind the player if you're going up and down, and it doesn't go any further than 180 degrees. But if you're rotating, it goes, obviously, it goes all the way around because the player will spin with you. If we go over here, you can see that very rarely the camera will let the player be blocked out. Like if you walk over here, stand under this. If any part of the player is in the camera, it doesn't like to move unless you put it over the floor. Then it will zoom in and almost goes to a first person view and keeps the player in the camera. If you go over here, it does the same thing, except for when you get inside of the player then disappears and it becomes like a first person camera. But the second you move out of that area of first person, the player instantly comes back into the camera. And it won't move at all. Like, so say you walk through the doorway like this, aiming straight forward or up. If the camera doesn't hit the wall, then it won't change. And as you can see, when you're walking through, it zooms in and then zooms right back out to where it's set, like radius is, so that it stays the same for the player. Something interesting with the camera is bushes and trees. The camera does not like bushes and trees. Let's take a look at how a bush reacts with the camera. Oh. So when you crouch in a bush, obviously it's not blocking the player at all, so it doesn't change, you know. But then if you pull out a gun or a weapon and you try to aim in, the bush stays in the way. So, I mean, they're really just used for hiding, but the bush doesn't affect the camera at all. It doesn't matter how close you get inside the camera or inside the bush. Here we're going to see how a tree reacts with the camera. It's not much different than the bush, but like when you go down here, you know, you still see the player. But in this case, when you do move enough to where the player is not seen anymore, it will disappear the player and go first person until you aim. Because when you aim, it focuses on the reticle rather than the player. So the player knows where they're aiming.